August end 2021. Gabby Petito, a young American vlogger, suddenly went missing for almost a couple of weeks. Her phones were completely unreachable, and no one heard from her anything. Some days later, she was found dead in Bridger-Teton National Forest in Wyoming. The authorities said her death was a homicide. This case raised many questions, especially about how earlier incidents involving the couple were handled. Gabby and her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, shared their travels on social media, showing what looked like a perfect life living in a van. However, reports revealed something opposite. Their relationship had growing tensions, including fights that caught the attention of the police. There was some evidence that looked like that Laundrie's family might have known about these things already, including details about Gabby's death and where her body was found. But they did not tell Gabby's family, which raised questions. Why did they hide it? Gabby's disappearance led to a large search that got national attention. What really happened to Gabby Petito? Who killed her and why? Most importantly, whatever we got to know later, is that really the truth? Questions were many and everybody was simply looking for the answers. Gabrielle Venora Petito, or Gabby, was a 22-year-old vibrant woman from Long Island, New York, who was full of life and adventure. She grew up in a loving family that encouraged her creativity and adventurous spirit to explore the world. One of the most important experiences in Gabby's life was a planned road trip across the country with her fiancé, Brian Laundrie. Brian Christopher Laundrie, who had a charming personality, had been close to Gabby since their school days in New York. After he moved to Florida, the friendship eventually turned into a romantic relationship in 2019. They started living together, enjoying simple moments like cooking breakfast and having quiet dinners. And without wasting time, they got engaged in July 2020, celebrating their love with matching tattoos. While from the surface level their relationship was just picture perfect, some friends noticed that it had some internal problems. They mentioned that Brian could sometimes be controlling, such as taking Gabby's ID card to prevent her from going out. But all the relationships have a little bit of problems. So, despite these challenges, Gabby and Brian were excited about their upcoming trip. Gabby had discussed her desire to go on a long road trip with her mother, Nicole Schmidt, months in advance. She also engaged in preparations, including yoga and buying supplies. Both Gabby and Brian worked at Taco Bell and Publix supermarket to save money for their journey. For the long trip, they converted a van into a temporary home for their travels. Their plan was to travel for several months, work on organic farms, and share their experiences on social media, making daily vlog. Gabby was particularly eager to document their adventure and connect with the growing van life community online. Finally, on July 2nd, they officially began their trip, and Gabby regularly updated her social media accounts to share their journey. Little did she know that it was going to be the last trip she'd ever have. Everything was going fine initially. But just 6 weeks into their adventure, near Arches National Park in Utah, something happened that changed everything for Gabby and Brian, marking a significant turning point in their travels. It was August 12, 2021, in Moab, Utah. A 911 call was made about a domestic dispute between Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie. The caller reported seeing a confrontation where Brian seemed to slap Gabby during their argument. After this incident, the couple was spotted running back and forth on the sidewalk before leaving the scene in their white van. Police officers from the Moab Police Department responded quickly and found the couple's van, which was driving erratically near Arches National Park. Once they pulled over the van, they separated Gabby and Brian to ask them questions. Gabby looked very upset and explained that she was feeling anxious because of her obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. She also talked about their ongoing arguments and expressed regret for how she had acted, mentioning that she tried to apologize to Brian. Gabby also told the officers that Brian had stopped her from getting back into the van during their fight. On the other hand, Brian said that Gabby had attacked him, showing them scratches on his face and arm. When the officers asked Gabby more questions about it, she admitted to hitting Brian but said it wasn't a big deal. She also clarified that Brian hadn't hit her in the face, but she did have a small injury from being slapped. However, a second eyewitness claimed to have seen Brian shove Gabby. but they weren't sure what his intentions were. However, the whole situation looked like Gabby was the main aggressor. Under Utah law, officers are required to make an arrest or issue a citation if they find evidence of domestic violence. But the investigations showed that the officers did not fully understand this law, and after looking at what happened, the police officers just decided to keep Gabby and Brian apart for the night. Gabby was told to stay with their van while Brian was given a ride to a nearby hotel. No one was arrested or given a ticket. Basically, the officers showed kindness and wanted to help the couple, even though they misunderstood the situation. However, when body cam footage was released weeks later, it caused public anger because it seemed to show the aftermath of a serious argument between Gabby and Brian. Friends and followers reacted strongly, especially after a 911 call reported that Brian had slapped Gabby. This led to conversations about how signs of domestic abuse were missed. Many pointed out that Gabby showed behaviors typical of someone in an abusive relationship, like taking the blame for what happened, while Brian was being totally manipulative. Rumor had it that Gabby might have been a long-term victim of domestic violence, but there is no concrete evidence to support this idea till date. After the traffic stop, Gabby and Brian continued their trip, heading to Salt Lake City. They later posted an edited video of their travels that didn't show any tension between them. On August 17th, Brian flew from Salt Lake City to Tampa, Florida, leaving Gabby behind. She stayed at a hotel near Salt Lake City International Airport and checked out on August 24th, and Brian returned on August 23rd to continue the trip with Gabby. The next day, Gabby spoke quite happily with her mother about their plans to visit Bridger-Teton National Park. But surprisingly, this was the last time her mother heard from her. That day, Gabby also shared an Instagram post, which featured a beautiful butterfly mural in Ogden, Utah. It was her last update on Instagram. After that, Gabby stopped communicating with her family, even though she had been regularly checking in during the trip. On August 27th, Gabby's mother, Nicole Schmidt, got a text from her that read, "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and missed calls." Stan is Gabby's grandfather. But what's strange was that Gabby never called her grandfather by his first name. On the same day, Gabby and her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, were seen on CCTV at a Whole Foods store in Jackson, Wyoming. They arrived at 2:11 p.m., entered the store at 2:14 p.m., and left at 2:30 p.m. After sitting in their van for about 20 minutes, they drove away at 2:56 p.m., heading toward the Bridger-Teton National Forest campsite. And this was the last time Gabby was seen alive. Witnesses also reported seeing Gabby and Brian at the Mary Piglet's Tex-Mex restaurant in Jackson Hole between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. on August 27th. One witness described Brian as aggressive during an argument with the restaurant staff, while Gabby later returned in tears, apologizing for his behavior. The restaurant staff also confirmed that they were there. On August 29th, Miranda Baker, a student at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh, and her boyfriend became important witnesses in Gabby's case. They reported picking up a man they believed to be Brian Laundrie while he was hitchhiking near Coulter Bay Village in Bridger-Teton National Park around 5:30 p.m. He was alone and asked for a ride to Jackson, offering to pay $200. Initially, Miranda thought it was strange that he offered such a high amount for a ride and noted that he didn't look dirty, even though he claimed to have been camping for days. During the ride, Brian Laundrie even talked about being without Gabby for a few days because she was busy working on their social media page. But things took a turn when he seemed confused about where they were going and suddenly asked to be dropped off at Jackson Lake Dam. A witness later picked him up from the dam around 6:20 or 6:30 p.m. and took him to the entrance of the Spread Creek dispersed camping area. On that very day, Laundrie called his mother, and during that call, he spoke with his father, telling him Gabby's gone and that he might need a lawyer. This was the time when the Laundrie family got to know everything but didn't bother to reveal anything to the Petito family. On September 1st, Brian returned alone to his parents' home in Northport, driving the Ford Transit Connect. And a few days later, on September 6th and 7th, he and his parents suddenly went camping together at Fort DeSoto Park in Pinellas County. Meanwhile, Gabby's mother got another text on August 30th from Gabby's phone saying, "No service in Yosemite," which left her mother unsure if she had really sent it. In fact, August 29th was Gabby's birthday. Her friend, Rose Davis, expected to hear from her, but there was no contact. As days went by without news, Rose became increasingly worried about Gabby's safety. Finally, on September 10th, Gabby's mother reached out to the police after not hearing from her daughter for nearly 11 days. At first, the police hesitated to file a missing person report because Gabby was an adult. However, her mother stressed that the situation was urgent. On September 11th, Gabby was officially declared missing, more than 2 weeks after her last Instagram post. The Petito family asked the public to focus on finding Gabby. Since Gabby was quite popular due to her vlogs and social media presence, news about Gabby's disappearance broke on September 13th, quickly drawing national attention. Her parents held a press conference to ask for help, sharing stories about Gabby's kind nature and beauty. Following this, a Find Gabby page was created online for tips and information. The extensive media coverage of Gabby's case stood in stark contrast to the limited attention given to other missing persons. However, amidst all these, only one person was not really cooperating in the investigation: Brian Laundrie. Investigators expressed frustration at his silence, noting that both he and his parents refused to answer questions, even though they were close to Gabby. As a result, the police named him a person of interest after searching the white Ford van linked to Gabby. The Laundrie family's attorney released a brief statement expressing hope for Gabby's safe return, while Gabby's parents publicly accused the Laundries of knowing where their daughter was and urged them to share that information. But they remained silent. And at this point, things took a dramatic turn no one expected. The Grand Tetons are popular for their breathtaking beauty. While traveling through this area in late August, Kyle and Jen Bethune, who lived a similar lifestyle to Gabby and Brian, saw a white van with Florida license plates parked by the road. They thought the people inside were out hiking, but when Gabby's disappearance became a major news story, the Bethunes decided to help with the investigation. Once they were back home, they reviewed their GoPro footage, hoping to identify the van. They were shocked to find a small white image in the video that matched the van, realizing it was Gabby's. This discovery left them in shock, and they showed it to the police. Finally, on September 19th, authorities found human remains at the Spread Creek dispersed camping area in Wyoming, about 300 meters from where Gabby's van had been parked. The remains matched her description. Afterward, an autopsy confirmed the worst fears of the Petito family. Gabby had been murdered. The official report stated that she died from blunt force injuries to the head and neck, with manual strangulation, which happened 3 to 4 weeks before her body was found. Her parents were devastated to realize they had lost their 22-year-old daughter to such a violent act. In the hours after Gabby's remains were discovered, police searched the Laundrie family home, sparking speculation about Brian Laundrie's whereabouts and the ongoing investigation. Brian had reportedly gone hiking in a Florida wildlife reserve while Gabby was missing. Naturally, his family faced scrutiny, with many questioning whether they were hiding information about Gabby's death. As law enforcement ramped up the search for Gabby's killer, their focus shifted to finding Brian, because amidst all these, suddenly Brian was also out of reach. The Carlton Reserve, a vast area of 24,000 acres filled with dense woods, water bodies, and swamps, presented many challenges for law enforcement during the search for Brian. They used various resources, including aircraft, drones, swamp buggies, and airboats, involving multiple agencies. The search efforts became more intense over time, all eager to find Brian and bring closure to the case. On September 23rd, authorities issued a warrant for Brian's arrest, but not for Gabby's disappearance or death. Instead, it was for bank fraud. He was accused of using Gabby's debit card to spend over $1,000 after her death. Despite the increasing pressure, Brian's parents, Chris and Roberta Laundrie, stayed silent, frustrating Gabby's supporters and the public. Meanwhile, on October 5th, Brian's sister, Cassie, shared her pain about the family's situation. She felt a deep sense of loss as their family dynamics fell apart and expressed frustration over their parents' lack of communication. Lenny DePaul, a former U.S. Marshal, believes Cassie's story and thinks Chris and Roberta Laundrie were hiding something. He pointed out that it was strange for Brian to come home alone and questioned what he might have told his parents. At first, the Laundrie family was slow to cooperate with the detectives, but they later helped speed up the search for Brian. Brian's father joined the search on October 20th, about 2 months after Gabby Petito was killed and 37 days after Brian went missing. But on that day, to everyone's shock, investigators discovered what seemed to be human remains in Carlton Reserve and personal items belonging to Brian. The cause of death is still unclear, but it's believed it happened before the search started. An autopsy couldn't determine the cause of death, so a forensic anthropologist examined the remains. Later, it was revealed that Brian died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. On January 21, 2022, the FBI announced that they had found Brian's notebook near his remains. In it, he admitted to killing Gabby Petito and misleading people into believing she was still alive. The FBI then closed the investigation, stating that no one else was involved in Gabby's death. And in June 2022, Brian Laundrie's family lawyer released his full notebook entry. In it, Laundrie described an incident where Gabby got hurt while they were crossing a stream, claiming he thought he was ending her suffering. This account painted him as someone who acted out of mercy, suggesting her death was accidental. He seemed more concerned about how he appeared to others and wanted to control the narrative, since he would never face a jury while Gabby's parents sought their own justice. Laundrie expressed regret and stated that he planned to end his life not because he feared punishment, but because he couldn't bear to live without Gabby. The surprising part is, experts noted that his version of events contradicted what investigators found, with some suggesting he was simply trying to justify his actions. Gabby's family is suing Laundrie's estate for wrongful death and his parents for causing emotional distress. Their lawyer, Patrick Riley, claimed that the Laundrie family knew about Gabby's murder and where her body was located. He mentioned that evidence from the FBI indicated Gabby was killed on August 27, 2021, and that Brian called his parents the next day. Riley criticized the Laundrie family's quick decision to hire a lawyer, calling it suspicious. But the attorney for the Laundrie family denied the lawsuit allegations, stating they had the right to remain silent. A letter, reportedly from Brian's mother, Roberta Laundrie, has been cited as important, where she wrote that she would protect her son at all costs. If this letter is recent, it could indicate a mindset for covering up for Brian. Gabby Petito's parents are not only suing in Florida, but are also taking legal action against the Moab Police Department. They believe that if the police had been better trained and had followed the law during a domestic violence incident involving Gabby and her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, she might still be alive today. Attorney Brian Stewart pointed out that the police officers failed to understand their legal responsibilities in that situation. To address this, the Moab Police Department had an independent review of how their officers handled the incident with Gabby and Brian. The review found that there was enough evidence to arrest Brian that night, but noted that the officers' inaction left the couple in a risky situation. They failed to follow up with the person who called 911, did not question Brian about his treatment of Gabby, and did not document Gabby's injuries. The report highlighted several signs of domestic violence that were ignored. Gabby showed signs of distress, often blaming herself and downplaying Brian's actions, while Brian appeared calm. Since her disappearance, Gabby's YouTube channel has received over 6 million views, a recognition she would have cherished while she was alive. Her family is struggling with the painful truth that Brian likely took her life, which raises questions about trust and betrayal. While he was initially seen as polite, many now view him as a coward and manipulative for abandoning Gabby in her time of need. The investigation into Gabby's death, which her family describes as a murder in slow motion, is still ongoing. It has left a lasting impact on those who knew her and the public who followed her story. As her family works to honor her memory, they want people to remember Gabby not just as a victim, but as a lively person who touched many lives. But do you think Brian's confession is the ultimate truth here, or he tried to be manipulative in his diary? Also, why do you think Bridger-Teton took his own life, if not for love and heartbreak? Could it be that there was someone else who killed Gabby and framed Brain for this? Share your views in the comments below, and subscribe to the channel for more thrilling true crime stories like this. See you soon.